So 13 years, Jack Bauer. How much of Jack is in Kiefer and vice versa?
Oh, very different.
A couple of things?
Just take a look at my record.
What record would that be?
Vastly different. Which is interesting because as a person, I get to look at the character and I can't stand back from that character, and it is a very different guy for me. And I promise you, when I grow up, that's the guy I would like to be. But it's very different. But I think the one thing that I respect about him, that I hope that I do have, is that I have a very strong sense of right and wrong. It doesn't mean I necessarily follow it but I know it. And I think the one beautiful thing about Jack Bauer is that he has a very strong sense of right and wrong as well, and he lives by it. And that's the thing I've respected about the character more than anything. And that was the great fear of opening it up to do a season 9, all of those things. I have a great respect for that character, and it makes the decisions that I have to make as an actor very simple, because that moral compass of his is his code of life. And so everything becomes very simple for me in that context.
What about people looking at you sometimes and sort of thinking you as Jack Bauer? I know you told me a story, and it's just a great story about running out of gas and someone poking your head off.
This was so embarrassing. In the first season, I had gone to the wrong location. I had gone to our set. I had gotten the maps confused. And we had a company move. And I went to the wrong location first. And then to make matters worse, on the way to the second location, now already late, and I'm never late. I've never missed a day's work, and I've never really been late except for this one time. And in all fairness, I arrived at the first location.
On time.
But to make matters worse, I ran out of gas literally half a mile down the road. And we had been shooting in this area, it was the first season. We'd been shooting in this area for about 4 months. And I'm still wearing a suit from Jay Leno the night before. And so I'm in a suit at 8 o'clock in the morning, running with a jerry can on the way to a gas station. And the traffic in Los Angeles is really horrific, so no one's moving. And someone yells out, Jack Bauer!
Jack Bauer!
Because they think we're shooting a scene. And 4 minutes later, his car hasn't moved. I'm running back with a jerry can full of gas. He's like, Jack Bauer's a loser. Gas in my car. So it's, and unfortunately, there's a lot of stories like that.
You tried to save someone once.
What's that?
You tried to save someone once. The little lady being beat up.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That was bad. Well, this is an awful story. I was driving down the street, and for those of you who are from Los Angeles, it was on Olympic, and there's not a grocery store for miles, and there's this old woman carrying groceries, and I went, oh my God, how far has she walked? And literally at that moment, 2 guys accost her and steal her purse. So I jump out of the car, I grab one kid and I hit him. I grab the other kid, he goes, no. And then I hear all these other kids screaming from across the street, and they're making a student film. Of the show, don't try this at home. Maybe.
There was no clue when someone said cut.
No, it was the old lady came and I went to grab her and I thought, wow, you're strong. 18-year-old kid from USC.
All right, I'm out of questions. You guys have any questions for Mr. Kiefer Sutherland? There's a microphone right in the middle here.
Hello, Keith. Thank you for coming by. And classic question. If you could walk to the ground floor on the dealer's room, who would you dress up as? What a mask or what would you wear?
Who would you dress up as if you had to wear a costume to Comic-Con?
Well, the first instinct is just a stormtrooper. No one would know who you are, and your body is defined.
Guys, that was a bit of a hint. If there's a stormtrooper out there, go up to him and say, "Are you Jack Bauer?" Every stormtrooper is going to get attacked from here on in. Yes.
Hi, I'm Mike. I want to know when you have family reunions, you're having Thanksgiving, do you and your dad have arguments over whose character is more badass?
First of all, that's a wonderful question. We don't seem to ever talk about work, which is very odd. And we just made a movie together, which John directed, a Western. And even in the context of making that film, we didn't really talk about work very much. It's almost like an odd family rule. You don't bring the business to the table. But I can kick his ass.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Julian. Mr. Sutherland, given your recent work on Metal Gear Solid 5, what has been the similarities and differences of working on a video game as opposed to a television show or a movie?
Well, I was about to say there's nothing similar because they're vastly different. Except the origin that I maybe take for granted, but the creating of the character would be the one similarity. The technology for something like Metal Gear 5 or Metal Gear Solid is so vastly in front of what we're doing with live action. It's extraordinary, and I do believe that very soon they're going to come together. That films will be interactive, et cetera, et cetera. It's clear that that's where things are moving. So it was an unbelievable opportunity to be a part of this. Technically, when I would go in to do that, they would put 60 little lead pieces on my face, and they would motion capture that with 80 cameras in front of me while I'm doing the voice, just so they can get the facial reaction of that character to move like that. They do the same thing with the body, et cetera, et cetera. But then they have the freedom. You know, I think this is, and I know how it's out there, this is a writer's dream. You can get rid of actors completely. We can make them do whatever we want. You know, and it is going that way. The technology is extraordinary. And when you see the game, I think you'll understand it. And this is really, that game specifically has pushed that envelope farther than anything to date. And in 3 years from when it's released, they'll be pushing that envelope again to make it obsolete. So it's going to be very interesting to watch what we have done for the last 10 years come to bear with the technology of what something like Metal Gear is doing, and watch those two things come together. But the process is vastly different.
Well, I know I speak for everybody when I say it's an honor to have you here.
Oh,
Thank you with us. My question is, you talked a bit about the evolution of your character on the show over 8 or 9 seasons. Did you see him as more of a slam-bang action hero that he's become, or did you see him more as a reluctant John McClane type of action hero that he was sort of at the beginning?
Absolutely reluctant. This was a guy who was given a certain set of responsibilities based on his job. In that very first day, he was given a series of circumstances that were seemingly insurmountable, and he did his best with them. He succeeded in others and failed with the most important, which was saving his family. And he lost his wife. The evolution of the character is really by virtue of loss. He lost his wife in the first one, he lost Kim Rayburn in the fifth one, he estranged from his daughter in the third one, lost
Renee.
his character
In the
Renee in the eighth one. So the evolution of the character is just how much he's lost, which allowed us to get to season 9, where now he's got nothing, he's just angry, which in all fairness is kind of cool to watch. But the evolution of the character is really based on loss and what he's had to sacrifice.
All right, hey, sorry, this is Ashkan. Again, I wanted to thank you for coming here. And also, I wanted to know, 24 has already been on its cutting edge in terms of political storylines. Does that affect you guys when you guys are making the show? Like, you're thinking, okay, how we can improve, the political do you think of the political ramifications as actors and directors and writers?
And it's a really interesting question. We don't consider the political ramifications outside of the context of our show. It's a show. We're not advocating torture. We're not advocating anything. What we're doing, and this is really a product, and this is again, kind of one of those things that just happened with 24. We made 24 6 months before the terrible events of 9/11. When this show was born out of the imagination of Joel Surnow and Bob Cochran, and they came up with the guy as a terrorist combatant because they couldn't figure out another job why a guy would stay up for 24 hours. I mean, it was literally that simple. And then all of a sudden, the terrible events of 9/11 happened. And then, second year, Howard Gordon starts writing about Chinese espionage. Well, damn if that doesn't happen. And then we start dealing with chemical weapons, and again, out of the imagination. 6 months later, guy gets busted in Vancouver coming over with 600 pounds of anthrax. So there was this uncanny thing that was happening where our writers would imagine the worst scenario, and then that scenario would come true. And then by season 7 or 8, they started going, well, maybe we won't guess, we'll just take something out of the newspaper. And season 9 was specifically that. 2 very hot topics, which was drone warfare, and how are you going to address that? And we'll have a discussion in the context of our show. Some are for it, some are against it. And we'll have that discussion on our show, and then an audience can take that as they will. And the other discussion was like kind of Edward Snowden character. Is it in fact espionage, or is it patriotism to inform on your government about what they're in fact doing? Again, we don't advocate for or against. We have the discussion within the context of our show. So the political backdrop of our show, I guess in a very long-winded way, is very important to our storytelling.
Hi, I'm The Verge. I'm actually here to ask one of my friends questions, because he's over there. What happened to the president after the season finale?
There were no other shows.
Well, we can't
Just
tell
like
you
one
that,
show.
can we? I don't quite know how to answer that, but I would expect that he's mourning the loss of his daughter. And I think in our heads, he's certainly resigned given his illness, and et cetera, et cetera.
Hi, my name is Derek. You probably shoot a gun, 1,000 times over the course of the entire series. Which weapon was your favorite to use and why?
6 Hour 337.
There's some fans who like that.
Clearly we don't use real bullets. What we do use are called full loads, and they are a round that has the full load of gunpowder, but without the lead projectile. The lead projectile obviously is a huge component of a round, and that's what makes most guns work. The 337 that I work with, the 6-hour, is one of the few guns that can actually fire the round without the lead projectile that won't jam. One of my favorite things, this is awful.
Go ahead, there's hardly anyone here.
Other actors will get different weapons, and they'll blow a scene because they'll only get 2 rounds out, and they won't fire their clip properly, whatever, and they start thinking it's them. And I will never tell them that it's not them. I will let them believe that it's them. Like somehow I have some magic way of holding a gun that it just works. It's not true. I don't. But I don't own a gun, I don't have a gun. But this thing works, and it's my favorite because of that.
But then Yvonne caught on, and she was like, I want his gun.
Well, because it was the middle of the night, and so I did finally cop to it. It was the middle of the night, and she kept blowing the take because her gun would misfire about halfway through a clip. And I said, here, take mine. Like we were sharing a cigarette. And she did, and she got through the take, and she went, oh my God. She was so angry with me. It was like, why doesn't everybody have one of these? That's the reason why it's my favorite weapon, and that was my favorite weapon.
Good question.
Hi. First of all, I want to say, Jack, you did an excellent job on Metal Gear Solid 5.
Thank you very much.
I've been watching 24 since I was in 4th grade. I had no idea 13 years from now I'd be meeting Jack Bauer in real life and stand in the same room as him. I want to ask, when you and the writers are making the story, what is more important to you? Creating a story that's suspenseful while the viewer is watching it on TV, or creating a story that people want to watch over and over again?
Well, it's a great question for the writers. I'm not actually involved in that stage, but I think personally, what's more important is creating a story that's suspenseful. Whether you watch it over and over again is really not of interest to me. I want to engage you in the very first time you watch it. That's what matters to me the most. So I would have to say the first. What matters, to me at least, is creating something that's going to leave an impression that you will actually take something away from.
Thank you.
Hi, Kiefer. Real quick question. Do you mind giving me a damn it? Huge damn it,
It's so hard to do it just... Damn it! Damn it, John, stop pushing me!
Yes, sir.
Kiefer, John, Stephen, nice to meet you.
Cheers.
I've seen, Kiefer, your career's been phenomenal. Thank you for coming today, both of you. Quick question for you. My wife and I were talking about your Brat Pack era earlier today. If you were to make another 24, for the two of you, who would you like to be a co-star?
Want to be a co-star if we did another 24. We could do the Brat Pack edition.
I have to tell you, we had such an extraordinary cast this year. So it would be hard to pick. I mean, there's so many fantastic actors out there. We were having a discussion last night. Howard and John and I had dinner last night, and we hadn't seen Howard or I haven't seen Howard since I got back, which was 2 weeks ago, from the UK. You know, we were talking about our favorite actors. Mine doesn't work very much anymore, but Gene Hackman, I think, is one of the greatest actors I think ever lived and never spoke the English language. So my dream fantasy would have been to work with someone like that. But there's so many fantastic actors out there in the world, and the people that worked with us this season were extraordinary. Everybody from Michael Wincott to Benjamin Bratt to Vaughn, obviously Mary Lynn, Kim Raver.
Michael.
Just extraordinary actors. So it's, I think one of the nice things and one of the hard things about 24 is there is a real revolving door with actors, because we kill so many of them. But you do get the opportunity to work with so many different people, and it just always amazes me how many kind of really special and talented people there are out there. 24 has been a great education for me with regards to that. So I can't specifically pick a cast for you, but the dream for me would have been to work with someone like Gene Hackman, or Gene Hackman.
We have time for one more question.
All right, make it good.
Oh, it's gonna be.
I like this guy already.
Thank you. Kiefer, I love you on 24. 24 to me, to my heart, is the best show that's ever been on TV ever. And my question is to you, John. Since the passing of Tony Scott, you know, sad, there was talks of him directing the 24 movie. Now, if you guys want to bring back Jack, since you did leave him alive at the end of this past season, will you be directing?
Oh, if there's a movie?
Yes.
Oh, it's hard to talk about that, quite honestly, especially since the TV world, everyone's got to understand, the TV world and the feature world are two completely different worlds. Even if you're talking Fox television and Fox movies, they are very different. I think we're still talking about the movie, it's still potentially out there, so that's good news. You know, that's really down the road. I'd love to. I'd love to.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming today. The Blu-ray arrives September 30th. Lots of special stuff in there. You can see Kiefer and I standing in the river as the tide comes up and washes us away. You got to get it, watch it. Thank you very much for your support. We really couldn't have done it without you.